sound like NPR.
Okay.
Right, welcome back. We're here. We're live.
Quiet storm.
On the sun.
This is America. This is happening, and we are live.
That's it.
We are
trying
We're
to get through
witnessing
it.
history as we live it.
That is cool, though. At least they can't whitewash this history, so to speak.
Yeah, why
Like
not?
You right.
What are you talking about?
You right. It's crazy how
they're
things
rewriting
over
it
time,
as we
all
speak.
history gets rewritten, though.
Yeah, as we speak, it's getting
It
rewritten.
all does.
So did you guys hear Pete Carroll come out and say?
Yeah, Pete's riding.
Pete Carroll?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. He was just like, yeah, you know what? I really wanted Colin Kaepernick back in 2017.
Yeah.
You know.
Everybody's saying that.
Right, but in
Like, I really regret not
picking him up.
not
yeah.
helping black people prior to today.
Right.
So how's that going to play out
Never.
this season? Is anybody going to care about the scores?
Drew Brees is gonna die.
Oh, it's gonna
Tom
get-
Brady's gonna die this year. I said it first.
Yeah, it's gonna be rough, but
It's gonna be ridiculous.
I mean they're gonna use the NFL as a tool, another tool to affect this change that needs to happen systematically. So I mean, there's multiple avenues. It's gonna hit the NBA. It's gonna hit college. It's gonna hit the NFL.
the world.
Heavy, yeah, but it's hitting the world.
Yeah, the world.
You know?
But do you think they'll hide it? Do you think like eventually they'll just?
No more hiding.
Because you'll have a bunch of.
Depending on
fucking angry-
how you act right now during this time is going to depend on the success of your corporation and or business and or whatever. You see how people are falling in line one after another.
It's true. You see that TikTok of all the people that got fired from their jobs
Yes.
for saying, like, putting their comments on Facebook. They put like the comment up and then they just
Fired.
Like,
I mean, I am enjoying following a few of these
I don't
Facebook
know.
groups.
I don't know if that's healthy or not, though, man. I think
I
that's
mean,
just
because
gonna
it's
suppress.
instant. Yeah, I know.
It's just gonna go even deeper, like deep state
I
shit.
know.
Like,
I much would rather. I just want to know where you stand. Basically,
I would, yeah.
You know.
yeah. That's why I like Trump.
I mean, people are entitled to their opinions, and it'll never be a perfect world. But the system in which a certain demographic thrives in just has to be just evened out a smidgen, just a little bit. And there's so many different factors.
Yeah,
Economically, yeah, that's it.
We just got over civil though. So.
I mean, I know it's a lot to ask.
Sorry, is that
I
me
know
laughing?
it is.
It's a whole lot to ask.
I know.
Obviously, it's a
I
lot to
know.
ask, man.
I just don't understand why it's so much to ask. But the system, I mean, can you? I really don't. You know, coming from a mixed family, I've gotten the best of both worlds growing up, and I've always thought, I mean, if I didn't have to see racism just in my everyday life, I wouldn't. Like, I think, one side of my family, they don't have, well, having a kid, they have to kind of see it. But just the regular white people in the world, they don't have to see it day to day.
At all.
They can be
Oblivious to it.
ignorant to it. And they cannot be racist.
Right.
But
Out
to
of sight,
not
out of
see
mind.
it and not be racist, that's not good enough. You just have to be all the way against it. Anytime you see it, you have to speak out against it, or else you're complicit in it.
Wow.
Not saying nothing's not
Hey,
good
you
enough
know,
no more.
no. So for me, like being out here in Idaho, man, it's been an eye opener. It's been a real eye opener because I got some good white folks that I hang around with. They come visit my place. My kid hangs out with their kid, and just all around quality people, just decent people, man. But when I talk to them, it is apparent that they don't have any exposure to the world outside of their bubble.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's two questions, right? The first question is, all right, is this like willful ignorance? Like, are they deliberately trying not to see the world? And it's not that, because I've asked the questions, I've had the conversations. It's really not that. It's just not in my world. Like, for example, in a neighborhood out here. You might have a police officer or chief stay right down the corner. He's a cool cat, comes down, hangs out, knows kids. You have the firefighter guy that stays around the corner. You have the people that work in the public service arena right in close quarters with you on a day-to-day basis. You know, you might coach their kids, they might coach your kids. So your reality is so far from the reality of someone in the inner city who would never have a police officer stay down the street. And if he did, the police officer doesn't talk to anybody out there because he doesn't really want any problems, because he knows that he's essentially ostracized in the community. He just wants to go to work and we'll leave him alone, but he doesn't necessarily, you know, he's not coming down to the block party. So at least from what I've seen. So it's just, for me looking at it, it's so fucked up because it's two different worlds, and one world is formulating opinions on things that they see through television programming, and whatever you subscribe to also influences that. And it's just limited information that you're formulating opinions on, and then limited information that you're acting on. So then when you act on your limited information and formulate an opinion with it, and you act on it, you're really thinking that that's the reality. But in reality, that's when you get the blowback, or like you said, someone getting fired, because really they were just acting on the social norms of their bubble. Correct. Right? So they don't think that they're wrong. I don't think that they're necessarily wrong. This is like this whole dichotomy thing going on. Is I don't think they're wrong because they don't know anything different. Like, they can say the same things in their circle and it would get perpetuated and people would add on to the commentary, and they don't see it as, I mean, these could be the most progressivist, leftists, you know, to the far rightist, whatever. It's just what's going on in their bubble, right? And that's the part that I think is the biggest challenge, to bring it together and get a common understanding of, you know, whatever the problem is, right? Is you just got these two universes that exist, and there's no way to bridge it, because how do you, you know?
We gotta have these messy conversations. We have to. I mean, we haven't had them because they're uncomfortable. They make everybody uncomfortable. I don't want to have them. Like, I've been living in this reality for 40 years.
Yeah.
I don't, like, why do I have to continue to, why, I mean, it's all out there. I mean, the numbers are out there. I mean, you see how the difference between, you know, the haves and the have-nots. And it's not blacks versus white people. It's really blacks who are being oppressed versus the system of racism, basically, which has so many different factors to it. And you know, I mean, things get hijacked, but the black and white, what they're trying to turn it into, it's far from that. It's far from that.
Right.
You know, I mean, because there's racism towards many groups here. I think just black Americans have historically gotten the worst of it.
What are your thoughts?
I'm just listening,
Yeah,
taking it all in.
Yeah, jump in there, man.
I was thinking, the Irish were oppressed here, weren't they, at one time?
Absolutely, they were. But
I mean, racism is so American. I seen a meme that said racism is so American. When we protest it, they think that it's basically against the flag, against America.
Well, yeah, you have this contingency of people that, led by Trump, that if you, I'm just gonna say it. He said it today, didn't he? If you kneel for the flag, I'm not watching the game.
Yeah, I
like,
stopped
are you fucking
listening.
kidding me? Okay. Well,
Trump is a genius.
I mean, gosh,
he does.
If he would have just shut up these last few years, he could have got reelected. For sure.
You don't think he's gonna get reelected?
God, I hope not.
It's gonna be.
Are you kidding me?
I think.
This has to be a landslide.
Nah.
Are you kidding me? Are we? Okay, I'll be the extremist.
Please elaborate.
Yeah, exactly. God. I'm gonna get destroyed. I see what's going on here.
Okay.
Maybe I should wait.
Yeah. I mean, before all of this, these last maybe like 2 months, and then recently these last few weeks, I don't know. I don't think he can bounce back.
What?
I know this
Bounce
is
back?
America. I be forgetting that it's America the whole time.
It's early.
I know.
We haven't even gotten to the NFL season, which is going to be, what, 2 months before the election?
That's just word promo.
Oh,
Think
God.
about this, man.
He is an entertainer.
Yeah.
Most entertaining that I've
Ever.
ever seen. Yeah, ever.
Ever.
Billions.
This dude is a genius.
Yeah.
It's no accident that he has the right comment to say about black athletes. That is the red meat to get the attention and to get the energy around. He never actually comes out and says, like, hey, man, I'm a racist. He'll just say, man, tell the black motherfuckers, son of a bitches, and that's what gets his base fired up. And that's what you do when you're trying to control the narrative. You get all the attention on you, and then you send out a couple tweets directly to
right to the people's
the world.
front door.
Yeah, and the problem we have in America is, again, back to this bubble. Either you're watching one programming or the other, and it's two extremes. And that's what I was talking about on Facebook when we're responding back. Don't hit me back with no fucking Fox News post.
No.
Narrative. Don't do that to me, right? Have your own thought process. Don't hit me with the CNN stuff. That's entertainment. So if that's where you're getting your information from, then you're misinformed. And it's really, really bad to hear people believe that one side or the other is the truth when you got people who will take it. So, for example, I'll just throw this out there. President Trump gets up and gives a speech, right? And it's a 500-word speech that someone wrote out for him or he collaborated on. We are not competent enough to develop our own thought process about what we just heard. No, we're not. So we hear the speech, and what do we hear right after that? Hey, well, in 2 minutes, we're going to have XYZ come on and interpret what you just heard.
Key points.
Yeah.
Key points.
Oh, yeah.
Wait.
That's all
What'd you
America-
say?
That's all, man.
What did you just say?
Everybody wants the Cliff Notes, man. Nobody wants to fucking read the book.
No.
They want the short version.
60 characters or less,
Yep.
please.
That's what kills me. It's like we have these. I feel like we're in some type of like super major system programming where you see the people who are programmed already, and you're like, oh, okay,
Have you guys ever tried to have like a real intellectual conversation with somebody on Facebook?
What?
Have you ever tried to do that before?
They don't exist.
No.
That's
It
a
doesn't
myth.
exist.
I tried the other day, and I got myself into an argument.
Can't
with
win.
With
You can't win
With a robot.
Yeah.
with a robot. Yeah.
Robot.
I go
There you
straight
go,
to the
robot.
friends list. If they got 4 friends, I'm not responding. It's a lot of that. It's a lot of that on Instagram and Facebook. You don't know if you're talking to a real person or not. The AI is dialed in now. So is
True,
this person
true, 'cause
really
I've even-
real?
It's true.
Yeah, true. Very true. A couple pictures
so then,
on there.
they can program whatever wild message that, they want the basis of this robot to act in. And no, I don't.
Antagonistic.
Yeah.
I
get
wish
on
I
there.
would have saved the screenshots because the conversation was deleted, so I can't refer to it now. But I'm pretty sure this was a real person.
So
and
did it really exist, the conversation?
There was one
Was
other
it
witness.
You talking to yourself.
Yeah.
There was one other person that I could contact to confirm that the conversation happened.
Really?
Yeah, and I was talking to my wife about it the whole time while it was happening. But maybe I'm just crazy.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
like having your wife testify as your alibi in a murder case. Like, of course, yeah. Oh,
Nah,
he agreed
yeah,
with you.
yeah.
Okay,
He was at the house. Oh boy. Yeah, that's I know of that. You might as well tell the story.
Oh, well, it was a actual fan, like a Bronco fan, who have interacted with through Facebook, and it was one of these posts where I didn't realize. I thought someone was genuinely asking someone to explain like white privilege to him,
Oh, I got this.
Yeah,
I'll
I was
take
like-
this one,
I was
guys.
like, man,
Don't worry, I could do it in 3 words.
it wasn't a meme. It was typed out. You know, I'm pretty sure he wasn't a bot, right? I'm pretty sure. I fell for the trap.
Go on.
man.
Jumped in there.
Fell for the trap.
So you explain white privilege on Facebook. You're the guy who solved that one.
I spell checked it.
Yeah, right.
Make sure I didn't hit auto correct.
I think we're done here then.
Yeah, right.
We're all good.
Oh man.
No, but it ended up going down this. We had this weird turn where I made fun of this guy's profile picture and he was like, my mom painted that. Or his
That's the bot. The robot
other
pulling on your
friend.
heartstrings.
No, it wasn't him. It was his other friend another friend that was watching the conversation.
Friend bot.
Friend bot.
Oh gosh. Oh, they had you set up.
You lost to a bunch of Russians. That's what happened. They just whooped you.
Yeah.
They're
Think
killing
they got
the
me?
game. They are killing the game
good
right
at that
now.
Facebook.
It's possible. I hope, because he said he was a police officer in a major city. So I hope he doesn't find me.
Oh man, this dude's unique.
Now you know how we feel.
Right.
Just trying to avoid them at all costs.
Yeah, man. Anybody else timeline just been flooded with it?
God, bro. I mean, I'm reading and I'm watching, but because half is my city back home,
Right.
Tacoma, Washington, and the
why I
other
threw that
half
out
is
there.
Boise, Idaho,
Right.
and like Star and Haley and Rupert, and I'm like, damn, the message is drastically different.
Oh, that's exactly what I've been talking about. It's so different.
Like you can tell, and I don't even know how to respond sometimes to people. I don't think it's my job to teach these people what's basically inherently like right at the core of it. Like I don't understand what's so confusing that people just want to be basically treated. At the end of the day, we're just asking to stop killing us in the streets in front of the world to see with no repercussions at all. In the grand scheme, I mean, damn, is it too much to ask to just stop killing us in the streets? I don't believe so. And then maybe once you get past that, then
Once
get
you
into
get
like
past
the
that.
systematic stuff that has just oppressed a certain demographic for a long, long time.
Well, do you think they knew each other? You hear this story?
I mean,
that they knew each other?
that's
They had
what-
like a run-in. They worked at a club.
The same club together. Yeah, I've heard that, but I don't know what the truth is.
I do know what I saw.
I
What do
do.
you guys think about the murder or the situation? 'Cause maybe we don't all agree it's a murder.
Oh, no, I think it's pretty clear it's a murder.
Is it?
That dude looked like he was murdering somebody. Like he had that look on his face like, what are you going to fucking do about it?
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, that was the look.
I think the whole situation is just weird because, like John said, they worked at a club together. They had interactions with each other several times.
Allegedly. Been recanted.
Allegedly.
Now we're covering that up.
So, and there was also some reports that there were on the toxicology report that there was a lot of drugs in Mr. Floyd's system.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a fake $20 bill.
Heard that too.
Like, these circumstances just all seem kind of like you could make them happen somehow. You know what I'm saying? And then the cop is just like, I don't know what's up with the cop, but he's obviously a sick dude to hold someone down like that until they died while they were handcuffed with 2 other people. Have you guys ever been laid on by someone big? And or by someone in general, and they have they're constricting your airflow and you can't your diaphragm.
Yeah.
And
on the football
it's not
field
just
at the bottom of
the net.
Oh,
yeah, and you can't breathe because you're covered up. And
get up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Get me up.
there's all those people on you, and they're constricting your airway. It's just obvious that nobody could, especially if you considering how recently had taken those drugs or been administered or whatever you want to say about it.
At the same time,
Yeah. Like all of those things. I heard fentanyl involved, and people have trouble breathing when they're on fentanyl, even if they don't have people laying on top of them. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. Other factors to think about. But I keep
why does it always and I also heard, but he had a past or he had drugs in the system.
There's a pattern.
The cool part about this video that we saw here, it don't matter what was going on prior to any of this was. I mean, we saw a clip of him getting walked to the side of the building, and then they was roughing him up in the car prior to that. You know, we couldn't see inside the car, but we seen. I mean, there was movement by cops and then them running around. But 8 minutes and some change.
I struggle with
it's
that
too. 8
too, man.
minutes and some change. And when he called for his mom, I mean,
basic humanity.
I mean the sincerity. I mean, he knew that he was going, and that was just too much. That was too much. I mean, what the fuck did America think was going to happen? I mean, what? It's like, I mean, no matter what color. I mean, if you've seen anybody of your family,
humanity, yeah, basically
that happening to them. I mean,
what are your thoughts there?
So being that, I mean, that's my community, you know, and the crazy part is I'm mixed right down the middle, 50% white, 50% black, but I grew up a black kid, a young black man. I never got to be half white ever, period. That wasn't an option. And there have been many times I was pulled over when I wish I could just clack my heels and turn all the way white. But I mean, I just, it's confusing being that, I mean, when you learn that you're a black kid from a very, very young age, you know. But then, I mean, I love my mom. I love my grandparents and my aunties and my little brother and my little sister very, very, very much. And it's just hard to fathom. I mean, there are people out there that just really, don't like me for the color of my skin. At the end of the day, it's just they're not liking you because of the color of your skin. And I don't know if I'm gonna ever be able to process that. Because it makes absolutely no sense at all.
None whatsoever.
Well said. That hits the nail on the head.
But I mean, geez, you know.
I struggle with the fact that we, in the conversations, so when I talked about the two bubbles and the two worlds, there's one world that wants to talk about the fact that it's an atrocity, right? That a guy can get murdered right in the middle, public eye like that, on camera. Oh, I went out.
Oh, just the headphones.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that a guy can get murdered right in front of you like that. There's another side of the conversation. This is like more so the conservative side, the Idaho side, where we start talking about all these different, like potentially contributing things, right? And for me, when I hear the potential contributing things, I know that that's going to automatically resonate as reasons why this guy didn't deserve to live or breathe. And not meaning that that's what you're trying to say or anyone's trying to say, but the moment the main thing is no longer the main thing, it begins to follow the pattern of other situations that look like it, right? You know, whether it be, I mean, there's just like a whole long list. Somebody posted a picture, had like 50 guys on there that have been killed in the last 2 or 3 years, 4 years. And it's like, damn, every time it's the same pattern. And again, when I talk about that mass programming sort of analogy, it's like, when do we see the pattern and wake up? Like, you turn on this news station and, oh, yeah, man, you know what? He was a porn star. You know, turns out he was also 6'12". You know, so all these things is not the main thing being the main thing. Even when you come down to people out there protesting, let's say, you know, 10% of them out there doing bad stuff, right? The main thing is that they're protesting the murder. Right, but we start all these other narratives around the main thing. Oh, fire over there, problems over there. Let's talk about the fire. Let's put the cameras on the fire Let's put the attention on anything but the main thing being the main thing. And I think that's a good place for us to start in terms of getting to those uncomfortable conversations, is saying, hey, you know what are we here talking about? What is the main thing? Because the same argument can be made both ways. So if we talk about the 10% of the people, or the 20 or 30, whatever percent it is, that's not doing the protests in a way that we could all sort of honor George the right way because of frustrations, well, that same 10, 20, or 30% exists in the police force. So having those conversations outside of the main thing being the main thing turns into a circular conversation. And that's where we kind of get ourselves inadvertently back into the essentially place where the conversation falls apart to a point like what you were saying on your Facebook analogy, where now I'm talking, look at your picture, well, your mom loves that. That's ultimately where everything sort of dissolves into, is the cesspool. Because it's easier to do that than it is to say, okay, but let's go back to the main thing being the main thing. Like, let's talk about this guy sitting there being murdered, right? And how can we make sure that never happens again? And how many conversations like that are happening on our television in front of us, where they're challenging the public at large to think about how collectively we could figure out how to make sure that never happens again. That's something we could all sort of come together on and use our collective brain trust to figure out. That would be a unifying effort, because we can all agree that, that was just unnecessary and shouldn't be happening, and something we can't be proud of. That's a thought I want to throw out there to the table.
My question is, and I know this may sound a little ignorant, but like, why now? Like, this has happened. This has happened to like a 15-year-old boy. This has happened time. We've seen these fucking stories over and over again. Like, a guy in Walmart, with a fucking BB gun.
Yeah.
Cop fucking shoots him. Like, all the. So why now? Do you think like the pandemic, people pent up, losing money, losing jobs for a couple months? Did that play a role in it? I just don't. I'm trying to understand why now this one, like this particular murder.
I asked that same thing. I was watching a clip of Dabo Sweeney at the Black Lives Matter rally on campus, and I'm just thinking, like, damn, the way these and many corporations that benefit from black culture are speaking out, and I'm like, just why now? Because it was like that, last month, and it's been like that for the last, at least my lifetime that I know of, and my grandma speaks of it being the same. My grandma would say something like, you guys you'll never see change in our lifetimes. And for the most part, she's true. Something's ringing different with this one, but I'm like, why now? Because I know you guys were aware of it prior. And I say you guys just meaning the white culture in large. But it's messy to talk about. And so I totally understand not wanting to talk about it. Shit, like I said, I don't want to talk about it. It's gross. Our history is disgusting when you get down to it. We became the most powerful country in the world off the backs of black people. And many minorities that have moved to the United States at some point or another, they were taken advantage of. But black Americans have been taken advantage of for the long haul. And it's so invisible now. I can just feel the negative energy before I see it, because it's not so much out in your face. It's more out in your face now with Trump in office than it was with Obama. But, the energy has always been the same. You can tell when somebody don't like you. You can tell when somebody's uncomfortable. You can see the middle-aged white woman cross the street when you're walking on the sidewalk, or clutching her purse when you get into an elevator, or get nervous to the point of shaking when you just speak to them regularly. And this is putting your soft voice on. Like, I've been conditioned to speak in corporate America, being that was the job. So I had to learn how to you not be threatening to your supervisors, I mean, like kneeling over and or talking to them while you're sitting down. And I mean, and maybe that's just for men in general, but I know that my skin color has affected conversations with people. Just, for the simple fact that it's a smidge darker than theirs. And I mean, if I was watching TV every night and drawing the conclusions of what I thought a black person was before meeting one, I'd probably be scared if I was white too, because we're overrepresented on mainstream media, being perp walked for the smallest of crimes, over and over and over again. I was just thinking, like, did anybody see the police officers get arrested? They were just magically arrested. Are they in jail right now?
Oh, the 4 cops?
Yeah.
I think 1 posted bail out of the 4, so 3.
Are you asking, did we see them get walked into the station?
Mhm.
Like, you would see a
That
criminal
too.
get
Oh,
walked
like,
in?
like, are they really in
the
jail?
perp walk,
No, they
the
haven't-
one that we always see.
I see what you're saying. No, we just saw the mug shots. Kind of, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's just
Shit, you could do that with Photoshop.
Yeah, that's a good point.
it's a mess. And you can't lock people in the house for 12 weeks prior and take away their jobs and give them $1,200 to pay all of their bills and eat.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what? So the rioting is just, piggybacked onto the, Black Lives Matter movement. And I don't know if I'm all the way agreed with just when Black Lives Matter started, I didn't know what their main aim was, but it says it's right in the title. It is what it is. I didn't know what the leadership was of it, but at the end of the day, that's all we're saying. Some people maybe need to hear like Black Lives Matter too, along with yours to the All Lives Matter people, but
That goes just to the point I was making. Like, every time the main thing is on the table, somehow, some way, we find a way. It's the uncomfortable conversation.
yeah, they
So
don't want
remember,
to have them.
None of us do.
Nobody.
None of us do. It's not even a finger pointing thing.
No.
It's the same question I asked at the end. What do you guys, if you could throw one thing out, say we need to do as a country to make sure that thing that we live and watched on TV, a murder, an execution, faces of death on TV, never happens again?
I would, police can't police themselves any longer.
Well, they
Period.
already have, Internal Affairs, IA?
That's the police.
Yeah, that's
It need to be like, an outside organization, whatever. They need to be elected or a board or, have partial citizens in it.
that has no ties to their unions.
Period.
Yeah.
And start, you can't just, no more paid leave after you smoke somebody. You can't
That's in the police labor union contract,
Yeah,
that's it's
but the taxpayers are essentially paying all of that.
I know.
So
I know. Well, yeah,
that's what the defunding the police is. It ain't, we're going to get rid of police. It's just they can't continue to be basically
their lawyer
rewarded.
fees. Their lawyer fees
Yeah.
can't be free because they
Can't
are.
Can't be at all.
That's a good point. The lawyer fees. That's a big thing that's going on too that we're up against, is that it's unionized,
Yeah.
right? And that's what a lot of people aren't talking about, is there's a lot of power in that collective bargaining unit, and that's how they've been able to kind of keep themselves insulated from, accountability. to some
Well, it was
degree.
back to what you were saying. Like, there's certain communities that the police don't live anywhere near where they police. They might live 2 hours away.
Yeah.
Right.
I just go in there 3 days a week. Like, I'm not part of the community. I don't give a shit what happens here.
True.
Go back to like you said, here, the cop lives down the street from you.
Yeah. Right.
But that might not be the case in L.A.
Yeah, no.
He might live in the hills and fucking, I don't have to go deal with this shit.
Right.
Only at work.
Right.
So,
Yeah, that can no longer be acceptable either. You have to be from the community.
Reflective
that
of the
you're
community.
Policing.
So then you're talking about like, to some degree, affirmative action on steroids, because now you're going to be deplacing some and then replacing
No, just how
them
they
with-
redline our neighborhoods. The police will have a redlined neighborhood where they if you're going to police in this district, you need to be in these whatever square miles. And or even if they don't stay there, you just need to be in the community. What happened to community policing? All policing now is just bringing the hammer on people,
Yeah.
giving tickets, arresting people.
Yeah.
I mean, walk the neighborhoods, get into these cities. I mean, help the kids. I mean, it's only going to help America. It don't seem that difficult to me.
Is that really the answer though? Is having them just come in and hang around with kids? I'm just asking.
I mean, you got to start it. I mean, because these cops seem, it appears that they're scared. They're in these situations, and to kill somebody. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not a killer, but once you start, I mean, there's a lot of cops that probably shouldn't be cops that can't function at a high level in high pressure situations, and it's showing.
Yeah.
It's showing.
Right.
Maybe not this last murder, but God, it seems like it's every other week. And on the silliest of circumstances, like, what the fuck? What you mean the police ran into the wrong house and shot a girl in her bed? Like, what?
A no-knock warrant?
What?
Like what?
Right.
A no-knock warrant?
Yeah, how's that not breaking? And I mean, it is. It wasn't that the boyfriend thought there was a break-in.
Yeah.
Like, somebody's fucking kicked in my front door.
Dang.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the training, the little 6 weeks that it takes to become
No, can we just reiterate that they got the wrong address and a girl died real quick because they got the wrong address?
Yeah.
They got the wrong address.
Yeah. It's just the police are reckless. They've been reckless for a long, long time. Our community has known that. I know that in the inner city, they do things that some people wouldn't even believe. Like just picking up kids and harassing them, pulling people over, taking stuff all out of their cars and just peeling off on you, dropping you off in a rival neighborhood or just somewhere far from where you're at and making you walk home. Just reckless stuff. I mean, pure intimidation, basically. And I know it's probably worse in the South. Like I couldn't imagine. I'm so glad I grew up on the West Coast. I mean, and specifically the Northwest. I mean, the racism is out there and it's heavy, but it's not as in your face as like you can feel it in the air down south. You guys remember playing at Louisiana Tech, and it appeared that the stands were segregated. That was the first time experiencing anything like that. Like, my God. Oh, just hot and sticky.
We were all over the South.
Yeah,
Arkansas,
we were. Yeah.
Georgia,
South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And was it a warm reception? It's kind of I guess.
I remember when somebody said from the stands one time, "Is that a defense or a Klan meeting?"
I will say they got
the fans.
They got the best hecklers.
The fans
in the South.
are reckless.
Yeah, they got the best hecklers.
They
in the
really
South.
are.
Yeah, it's
For
bad.
sure.
I mean, fans
it
are.
is bad.
God, I can't. I mean, the first time I experienced being called out of my name was on a football field, I believe. Yeah, in a pile.
Well, I mean, how do you like if you're? I'm just going to use Alabama. There's clearly a lot of black football players that these racist people who hate them, but on Saturday go and cheer for them,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
different.
and
though.
it's us all of a sudden.
They're cheering for the coach.
Is that what
I
it
think
is?
that's how they.
That's
I think-
entertainment. We've been entertaining
Entertainment,
America for ever, basically,
the whole time.
the whole time.
Yeah.
And just because they sprinkle a couple dollars on a few of the, the most entertaining ones at the top, that no way makes, things better at all. At all.
Yeah. it's just entertainment.
I think
they're able to separate it on just by that alone.
What, the helmets? Do the helmets help? I mean,
No, I think it's just pure entertainment. You guys are out there just for my entertainment.
I'm watching this spectacle, and then I don't
Yeah.
give a fuck what happens to you tonight or
Basically.
tomorrow. Or
No, yeah, go run your heads into each other on the field, and hopefully you don't get some CTE out of it.
Got it.
And it was fun. And to be honest, I'm probably not even really into the game. It's just an opportunity to socialize with my buddies and drink some beers. It's not really seen as
You guys didn't ever want to go into coaching at all? Or you are in coaching, Billy. So
Yeah.
you do have a love for the game because you want to teach it to young kids.
Absolutely.
So it's a catch-22 because I think we all love the game to an extent.
Yeah.
I mean,
It just is.
Right.
It's way more than just the game. Once it turned to more than just the game, and then it wasn't fun anymore.
but it had reached that point. But the game, the actual games, like the game day,
Yeah, that's what we live for.
that's the thing, right?
That is the thing. I think at our level, that thing that we get to experience in terms of playing together, having each other's back on the field, and having that experience, that is, for me, I think, the very start of the answer, right? Because that's the one thing that when we go on the field, no one's ever thinking about black, white, green, none of that. I don't think we did even, through practice and through the week in preparation and just us being around each other. It's a unifying it's a unifying sport, and I think that some of the components that make up football and competition and sport just in general is something that we can look at to say, okay, hey, there's bits and pieces of a model that work. We didn't all hang out with each other outside of the locker room, right? But we can come together for a common purpose, and as a matter of fact, be very, very good at executing on the goal and executing the purpose that we're there for. And so,
And commit to it, right? And
Absolutely.
be there. Because
That's given if we as a whole society want everybody to win. And it's clearly not like that. Some people our system's not set up for them to win at all. From the beginning of writing out, I mean, what America was going to be, there was a group that was excluded from
everything that was a
Everything.
thought process for
yeah.
making it. Well, the same thing with college football, though, too, right? And sport, lots of sports. From baseball, basketball. I mean, it wasn't originally created for blacks to participate, but
True.
eventually we integrated into it. You had some of the adversity that comes along with something different.
Because the money that was involved.
There was no real money in it back then. It built into that. Like Jackie Robinson didn't come in and
my
stands
grandfather
filled up.
turned down a job playing baseball to build elevators in California.
Yeah.
So he was.
Yeah, we're talking like the first few years.
Right.
The money.
in the 30s, it wasn't.
Right after the Depression.
They didn't have any money to pay the players.
Right.
I mean,
right.
even up until the 70s and in the 80s, that the people weren't making
No,
big,
they were,
big
man.
money.
They were.
But
Media wasn't involved. Marketing, branding wasn't as strong back then. So it's a whole different world today.
yeah, it is.
But I think that it still holds true that there are some values and learning lessons from sport that can be applied to the
For sure.
public at large. And I would say that when we talk about winning, if we could all say that America is the team, right? And it's America versus everybody per se, then we can all unify around that.
I thought that's what it was supposed to be. Like, what is it then if it's not that?
Well, it can't be that right now. That's why we're having this conversation. It
So
can't be
what
that.
was it prior?
To what? Let me make sure I
Opposed
understand.
to us being a team, us all being on the same team. Like, I mean, are people like aware that there are two different teams?
I think
Like
we
America's not
I think some people are.
together all the way.
I think they know. People know. That's why,
But we hold it together with a facade.
I don't even think we hold it together with a facade. I think it's blatantly apparent that America is having some challenges because of what it was originally concepted as, and we haven't dealt with those things, and we continue to just try to push past it and try to get more time between the inception of the country to where we are today to say, well, look, man, a couple hundred years ago, a couple thousand years ago, but it hasn't actually been addressed.
I mean, and you can't, and it's not just a fact that, I mean, they thought about it, they thought about it to the extent that the South was concerned that most of their population was in plantations and as slaves, which were considered property. And so they had them specifically write in one of the amendments, the 3/5 clause, saying basically a black man or a slave was worth 3/5 of a man when it comes to your representation in the House and for other, monetary needs or whatever they do with that population.
Well, we couldn't vote either.
Absolutely. So it was a double shot. Right. Exactly.
So was your vote, quote unquote, was the slave owners' vote?
Yes.
To vote for all their slaves.
Yes.
I see.
So if you had a rather large plantation, you were a very powerful man in the government because your vote was going to sway an entire state potentially because they had a lot of people locked up. The originating founding fathers of this place and the Virginia plantation owners in particular practiced a style of farming where they would just plant tobacco, which was they just had huge properties, and they would plant tobacco and they would harvest it. And then once they harvested it, that land was not good for planting tobacco anymore. So they had to move to another part of their estate. And so, naturally they would get farther and farther away. So the more people they have, just the more stuff got done. And it was just super inefficient. And they just had more people that could do that type of work than they had people that could figure out how to do it better. Is how terrible, like they didn't care because it was just a why bother type of situation and the callous nature of that. And that's for the big plantations down in Virginia, Monticello, which was owned by Thomas Jefferson. And I forget the one that was owned by Meriwether Lewis, the famous Lewis and Clark explorer who discovered the West, was his basically protege who had a large plantation as well. And the fact that our American history is taught from a perspective that is so clearly one-sided, and that's just
it's part of the problem.
It's beyond reproach, really, and that we're just lying to our kids for the first formative years of their life. Yeah,
that's a really good point.
And that is just, I mean, it's terrible. It's a disservice to the kids.
These kids nowadays know this. The internet is a real thing.
Yes,
the real history is out there.
That's the part of the problem now, though, right? Is everything that's happening right now, our old values, norms, things that we went about, all the systems are now looking like hypocrisy because people are searching and learning more outside of the textbook that teaches you the ABC 1, 2, 3, and that what you're talking about really hits at us dealing with the systemic side of things, right? Now you're starting to peel back the onion. I think like conversations like the police department is more so like a symptom of really the judicial system itself.
Because those police departments and those unions are made up of individual people.
Correct.
And that is where the change has to happen. I don't think, honestly, it's difficult to see how it's going to work coming from the top down, just throwing money at it. You're not going to change people's minds with mandatory sensitivity training.
No.
And asking them to take their time to read books that go against any and everything they believe, when it's just such a part of their identity.
The whole system's got to get shook to the ground.
Right, that's the scary thing,
Everything.
right? The moment you start peeling back these
Prison
things,
industrial complex. You got to get we
just
we
the
don't
social
need to have that
construct
many
in
people
itself,
locked
like
up.
the fact that we talk to each other and say you're white and you're black, and
Right? Why I
that's not a
can't
real
just be
thing.
an American?
Do you think that the
It's not a real thing.
do you think that the reporters that report these things that happen and such, these like concerned tones and tears in their eyes,
Fake news.
Do I think they're good
Fake
employees?
do you think
Do
they
they're good
care?
actors?
Do you think they care if these? Do you think they want this turmoil to end, or do you think they want to like keep it
It's
going?
good ratings. It's entertainment.
I think if you had a camera on and a conversation in their living room, it would be a totally different person than what you see in front of the camera.
For sure.
You got to remember, they're just an individual on a screen doing a job for a check to then go home and take care of their
Went
family.
to a school.
They
wasn't
don't
a frat.
necessarily connect with the fact that this is influencing the masses in a certain way that's unhealthy. I don't think. And even if they did connect to that, they go home at night and say, you know what, that sucks, but this is the world we live in. And that's more so another representation of the fact that the system of media, right, and how it has been constructed to work against us is flawed. So every system that you look at, you start to call into question. And I think that's what the next generation is going to be doing, because if we don't have what it takes to have these conversations about it, they're going to grow up and history is going to be told in a way that I don't know reflects well on us, because we know these things right now. We're in the know right now. So then what do? Right? And if we don't decide to do something, at least start the conversation, then we're not going to be looked at very well when they look back. Like you said, history sort of always gets whitewashed. Well, yeah, no one wants to look back and say my grandfather was a piece of shit, or my great-great-grandfather, or you know what I mean? Like that's part of your lineage. No one wants to do that. So we quote Martin Luther King, but he got put in the same box that Malcolm X got put in. So that tells you that during that time, neither message was received. Just like in this time, Colin Kaepernick's message is not received just as well as Black Lives Matter message is not received. And it's because we know what the problem is, but we never keep the main thing. And when you start asking those questions, JT, that hits at the heart of what's going on. Is we got to look at all of these different systems, and again, I suggest we draw from things that we know have worked. Like, how have we collectively came together to face strong adversity? Well, you got sport to look at to find a lot of examples. Not that sport's perfect, right? But I think that we've got the brain power to have the conversations and to find the solutions if we focus our attention and effort in that way. And that's a really good question, looking at the education system and asking the questions about it, because they're indoctrinating us at a very young age so that by the time you do have the thought to critically think, you have to do so questioning everything that's a part of your core in order to do it. Mm-hmm. And then to speak out about it, you then have to be looked at as outside the box or a conspiracy theorist, right? And so we know what it is. We've diagnosed it. We know where the challenges are at. And having the conversation to start. Whoa!
Oh, sorry.
And
Chair
there's
down.
my chair, right?
Oh,
shit.
man.
This must be the forces of the universe telling
Yep,
me.
there you go. Your time's up.
Right. Is this on camera?
Yeah,
That's all I need to know.
caught it all.
He set you up.
Right?
Oh,
As soon as
man.
Billy gets started, I'm going to push the button.
Not right up the message
Yeah.
from our sponsors.
So when you say sports can help this, I'm gonna continue.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, I guess what role coaches have to play a significant role in this,
Yeah.
and do they want to? I think that
Their
Yeah,
jobs are going to depend on
Yeah,
it. It don't matter if
know
they
it-
want to or not anymore.
yeah.
We're
They
not.
have to.
The community's not asking from this point forward. I think we're done asking.
The coach would be the best person to go to because, like, let's open up that whole box, right? I think about Jason Robinson calling out Harsin, right? And what he didn't really say is, and he was right for everything he talked about. So I don't know if you guys heard about this.
Who didn't say, Harsin or Jason?
Jason.
What Jason didn't say.
Okay.
What Jason didn't say. So Jason called out Harsin and said, hey, basically called him to make a statement to speak out in support of Black Lives Matter, and talked about just the evolution of Boise State, who was a big part of it. And so essentially he was saying that, hey, man, when you started to go into inner cities and bring in more diversity, i.e. black guys, you started to experience more success. And we are a big part of why your kids have health care. We are a big part of why basically you live the lifestyle you live, so forth and so on. We put food on your table, or we're a big part of what puts that food on your table and have been, right? And so what he didn't really say, and to your point, when you talk about coaches being involved, is, and this is what we all have to do, like, you got to appreciate what it takes to be in that sort of middle management role of Harsin, to be able to walk into an inner city and recruit a kid and get that family to trust you to take your kid 2-3 states away, right? You're 18-year-old. And now that I got kids of my own, I look at, how my wife looks at our kids. It's like, I don't know if we could send this guy to Caldwell to go to school or being comfortable with it.
How does that work? Do you know how that works when they're coaching them? Because you know that we've all had teammates that didn't quite commit to football from like things that were going on in their outside lives and before they got here maybe, and things didn't work out for them, right? People who were just too wild to make it, on the team or whatever, or to be there and meet all the requirements to be on our team, because there are strict requirements. You can't be out going crazy, right? There's a lot of hoops that you got to jump through, right?
Right.
So they have to assign some type of risk factor and evaluate each kid as they come in, and consider, because they're in your house, they're looking at what you're doing, they're going to your schools and talking to your coaches, and they have to assign, I'm sure, each kid some type of metric or that they just evaluate you on and assign what kind of risk factor. And what do you think one of the number one questions is when they assign that factor? It's like race, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Probably.
Yeah, for sure.
How does that, how do you even get into that and start evaluating people like that?
You don't.
It just seems like is there a meeting or is there a spreadsheet that has like risk factor, or is there like a bubble sheet that they fill out and the Scantron spits it out?
That shit's Fight Club, man.
Fight
Club rules code.
And like things don't need to be spoken anymore. The system is created. Even the NCAA.
It's like
they're basically pimping. They're pimping all kids, but you
you talk about it in a certain way.
Yeah, it's just they
right?
say.
You talk about it in a certain way.
Not to say, because there's many,
you say things like, he's from a single parent household.
Boom.
Oh.
That's the code word. It's like Fight Club. You don't talk about Fight Club. That's one of the wrong rules.
Low income family.
Yeah. The system is
inner city
well
school.
refined now to deal with those types of things. And so the system in college football is not perfect by any means. I think more so what I'm suggesting in terms of the coaching side of it is, back to what John was saying in terms of like, what do the coaches have to do and what's their involvement in this, or do they want to be involved, is you have the coaches that are in a really unique situation and that they've been able to see come into the household, influence, and also gain the trust of parents to take their kid away, while at the same time knowing that they work at the end of the day, they work at the pleasure of the board, right? Or the boosters, for that matter, right? And who are those boosters? Those boosters are more times than not going to be, far right conservatives with a whole bunch of money. And so how you balance that dynamic, that would be a great question. And so back to my original point, which is what I was saying about Jason, and that one thing he didn't say is let's appreciate the coaches for the fact that they actually are able to spin all those tops and keep them going, because what would it feel like to have to go out and speak to such a controversial subject when you know that your bosses and the guys who actually cut your check and build your facilities and, you know, really put the financial support behind you, they're not bought into this, not even a little bit. They have no real correlation or connection to what's going on. I mean,
but they know that bottom dollar, and they know that bottom dollar without a certain demographic, that whole thing's gonna burn to the ground.
well, do they?
They're watching their money.
I think
Every day they're checking the
are watching
balance.
their
If I
money.
had that much, I'd be dialing it up every morning just
So
to
go
see how
back
much
to
is still in
Jason's
there.
conversation. Jason was like, you know, the risk factor. So like, okay, so what do we risk by not putting out a statement? You know, I mean, those questions start to
A
hit.
lot. Right now, you see everybody falling in the line. You don't even have a choice in the matter. Starbucks
True.
tried. Like, oh no, we was just playing. The
Breeze
shirts we
tried
had,
a little bit.
the
Yeah.
shirts wasn't printed up